have some space at the top of page 531. Yeah. So we're going to add some notes here. We're going to put it all together for both sine and cos when you have all the letters. And this is sort of going to be our shortcut. In transformations, we work from left to right. And the thing with sine and cos graph is you will often have all 4 transformations in one question. And if you work from left to right with a sine graph, you'd have to think of the key 5 points that a sine graph starting at the center line, then going to the maximum, back to the center line, down to the minimum, back to the center line. If you did transformations, you'd have to take all 5 of those points and do the arrows and change each point as you went along. And it would, chances are you'd make a mental math error because you're dealing with fractions and you're dealing with pi. And so you run into some issues. Now what we've noticed in the last section in 6.4 was that you're able to see what's changing. A changes the amplitude. B changes the period. C moves it left and right, changes your starting point. And D moves it up and down. Right? And it's easy to remember because A, amplitude. B, period. Right? C sometimes makes an S sound, starting point. Now, I don't know about D for your sinusoidal axes. Maybe that's how you'd remember each one. Not sure. So the order that we're going to do, we're going to give it an acronym to help us remember it. We're going to call it DAB-C. I put a dashed line in there so if you're actually thinking of it, you can think of it as DAB-C. You're going to start by graphing your center line. That's the first thing that you're going to do. Then once you've got your center line, your amplitude will help you find your maximum point and your minimum point. Because if we have our center line and our amplitude was 2, we'd go up 2 from our center line and down 2 from our center line. And we'll be able to on our y-axis, write our starting point. Your b value helps you find your period. Remember, for sine and cos, our period is 2 pi divided by our b value. And then once you have your period, you're going to label that. We're going to label our period on our x-axis. And we're going to divide it into 4 equal sections, just like we did when we did questions that just involved the period. Now the dotted line that I have here, and the reason we put a dash between DAB and C, is at this point you are going to draw with a dotted line the graph before the phase shift. Just like we did before, we drew our sine graph before we shifted it. So we're going to draw it with a dotted line before our horizontal shift. And finally, for C, we're going to translate or shift left and right for our new starting point.